All right, this is the second show we've done on smoking gun, actually the third, and the reason is because there's a lot of new information. This turns out we've created a monster here, and it's more powerful than even I thought. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we get deeper into this. All right. Technical analysis. We're all familiar with it, right? I mean, so some of us are obsessed with it, and we do this all the time. And it's the study of charts. And it's what most traders are all about. And you can go on and on and on and get as complex as you can. And sometimes you get so obsessed with this that it can drive you nuts. Trying to find that perfect setup, trying to find different setups for different market conditions, and on and on and on. So, knee-deep in chart analysis, we often forget what's behind all of this. You know what that is? People. You lose sight of this sometimes. You get so hung up in the chart lines and and graphs and patterns. You forget that that's all controlled and created by people. Because, people represent traders all over the world, and they are the ones that are causing all the gyrations in the stock chart. So it's the composite knowledge of everyone involved with the stock and the market that creates what we call the chart setup, or, chart analysis. Now, the reason this is significant is because this presents a couple of problems with chart analysis by itself. One I just mentioned is the complexity, or obsession actually, tends to lose sight that stocks are controlled by people. And there's often information that is not in the charts. And there's almost always somebody who's smarter than you are. Now, remember, because we're dealing with people. So there's some dude out there that knows more than I do, or you do, or all of us. And that's where smoking gun can really help. It's also why most people feel that the market is rigged. Because all these points I just mentioned gives you the feeling that something is up, something is, fraudulent. And that's because there's missing data. So you're sitting there on a stock and suddenly some news comes out that nobody knew about, and the thing goes, bonkers. And, this sort of thing makes people wonder about the market. But it's really all just people and their good side and their bad side and all their shenanigans. The solution to this, or at least a partial solution, is to detect large bets on the future. Because you see, the whole market is driven by bets, if you will, on a future occurrence. So if someone thinks a stock's going to go up, they're going to get in. But more importantly, and the reason why the smoking gun report is so significant is because it deals with options volume. And options, by definition, is the future. Because you're buying an option to buy a stock sometime in the future. And so when somebody places a large bet on an option, that means they believe in the future something is going to occur. So large bets on future events are best detected through unusual options volume. Heavy play on options means someone is placing hard money on a future outcome. It's all about people. What's funny is when we first did this product, somebody on the forum made some smart-ass comment and said, well, Gar, I've looked at options volume and it doesn't work. I had to laugh at that. I'd say, what do you mean it doesn't work? Of course it doesn't work by itself. You can't just look at some big option volume and go, that stock's the one to buy. No, there's a lot more to it than that, and we'll get into that. But no, it does work, and I can prove it. And that's how Wall Street Smoking Gun came about. Because I kept noticing this phenomena over and over and over. And I also know a lot of people on CNBC talked about it all the time. There's services out there that will give you unusual volume reports, but they're usually only end-of-day snapshots. And you can't really catch the action as it moves in real time. And that's why Smoking Gun is so valuable. because it scans 300,000 options in real time all day long. That's a lot of data. What you get is a report something like this. Now, a lot of you have seen all this obviously already, but there's a lot of new people here too, and that's why I'm going over this. But this is a typical report, at least on the website. And for example, you'll have an entry there, and this options contract was March 20th, and it has 18,600% above normal. That is a gargantuan difference in its normal volume. And that has to be significant. Now, these other columns I'll go over later, but one of the most significant columns, which you guys have not had until the new version, by the way, and that's what I call the 5-day accumulation. This tells you how many days in the last 5 that same stock had options, unusual options volume. So in other words, if it said unusual options volume for 5 days in a row, that number there is going to be a 5. So one below that is a 1. That means that one, if it's a 1, that means in the last 5 days, one other time it had unusual options volume. This is really important information because it tells you if the stock through the option is being accumulated. Somebody keeps making a large bet over and over and over. It begs the question, does all of this work? Well, yeah, of course it does. I wouldn't be having the 3rd webinar and getting all excited about this, and frankly, I think it's the best thing we've ever had, since I've been doing this for the last decade or so. Right here you see a snapshot from a few days ago of the GARS Gold stock history. What this is trades that I present live, real time. I'll say like entering this one, and it'll be date stamped and time stamped and the price, and there's some exit point somewhere. The dark area here is the first part of the year where there was no smoking gun, so I wasn't using it, obviously. Okay, and the win ratio there is about 50%. Now, I know that's not a very big sample, but trust me, prior to this year, see this thing all got reset for this year, it wasn't that much better than 50%, which and by some standards in trading is not that bad. However, that section is since Smoking Gun has been available to enhance one's trading, and look at the difference. What you're seeing there is a 90% win ratio. That's right, 90% win ratio. Plus, there's a lot of really nice gainers in there. I see an 11% there, and I see a 10% one, and a 4%. This is not a fluke. Every single day since this has been invented, I keep thinking, well, market was good. That was a fluke. The next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. What's been like almost a month now, and it keeps doing the same thing. So, yeah, of course it works. But you have to know how to make it work, and that's what I'm going to show you. It's simpler than you think. Yeah, that's a 50%, 90%. So in a tough market, and there were a lot of tough markets during that time, by the way. This was not an easy thing. 50% winners with tech analysis alone, 90% winners with tech analysis and Wall Street Smoking Gun. Some key points. Wall Street Smoking Gun does not replace chart analysis. No, 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 no. It greatly enhances chart analysis. That's what you got to realize. An entry in Wall Street Smoking Gun means you should take a look. Boy, it drives me nuts when somebody says, Gar, so-and-so is on the top of the Smoking Gun list. Does that mean I buy it? God, that drives me nuts. The answer is no. It means you ought to take a look. And look at all the other factors. Maybe somebody made a big bet and maybe they're stupid. So it's a screener. It gives you hints. And boy, does it give you some good hints. Confirm with simple chart analysis and you will have winners. Now, before I go on about chart analysis, I'm going to show you some new features in Smoking Gun. The new features as of today's version. I don't know if any of you have downloaded it yet, but if you download the new version in Traders Unite and open Smoking Gun, you will notice a lot of new things. I'm going to show them to you rather quickly. For starters, there's some new columns. You got the usual columns of unusual volume and all that, but you also have right here, this is the put volume. Now what that means is that we're looking at calls, okay? But it also shows you the unusual put volume for that same options contract. Now the reason why that's important is because this will tell you whether or not the trade is straight up or whether it's a straddle. By straddle, I mean they're buying both puts and calls. You see that a lot, like, say, on an earnings report. You know, everyone figures the stock's going to spike one way or the other. And so they'll buy big calls and big puts. See, that doesn't tell you much. That just tells you that they're expecting volatility. What's really significant is when the call is huge, but the put is negative. In other words, there was no action on the puts. And the one right here is a good example. It's got 11,000% increase in call volume and a minus 100% increase in puts. That means there were no puts bought at all. So that's a pretty big bet on upside. Of course, if we go to the puts, it'll show you the call volume of what the comparison is to the call volume. This column here that where the pointer is called open interest change. This is also very significant. Now, open interest in an option means how many outstanding contracts there are. So every time an owner of stock sells an options contract, that creates a new contract, and the open interest goes up. The reason why that's an important number is because if that number increases a lot, that means that somebody bought those contracts straight up and they were newly created. If that number doesn't change, that means the big trade was just a trade. You know, the options moved from one hand to the other. And then lastly, I covered this a little while ago, is the 5-day accumulation. That means in the last 5 days, how many times has the same stock appeared on this list? And 5 is the max. I didn't want to go further back than that because it gets less and less significant. But you can sort by that if you want. Sometimes I like to sort by that so I can just look at the 5s, you know. Pretty cool. Anyhow, those are the new features. Now, down here you'll notice a whole new list. You can add watchers. So if you want to watch that one, you can go add watcher. Now, when you add the watcher, that means something you want to watch. It actually gives you the track trading daily and weekly scores for that stock. So now you can have track trading help you confirm the pick. It tells you the date you added it, and it also tells you how much it's gained or lost since you posted it to the watch list. That's important for me because I need to know how good my pick was. Alright, so now, what else do we add here? Oh yeah, the email thing didn't work last time. Remember, well, that works now. You can tell it to email you these reports, and it works pretty good. Export. We added an export feature. You can export this list to HTML, CSV, or text. And that's pretty straightforward. You just export the whole list. And that means you could bring it into Excel if you want, or whatever. You know, print it, whatever you want to do. Alright, so those are the new features. Let's get back to the show. Alright. Tech analysis kept simple. You know, one thing I wanted to mention is that with Smoking Gun, your tech analysis does not have to be that complex because it replaces a big part of the burden of tech analysis. So when you're confirming a WSSG trade, Wall Street Smoking Gun trade, remember, the trick is to find good ones on the Smoking Gun list, and then you've got to confirm them. I cannot emphasize that enough. By confirming it means there's got to be something else in the charts or whatever that tells you it's a good trade. Now, when confirming a trade from that, now you guys can, differ with me on this, and you can use your own methods, but I discovered that this is all you need. Trend, which includes trend reversals, and support and resistance. That's all you got to look at. You're going to say, oh, come on. What about MACD? What about, Bollinger Bands? What about this? What about... No. These two things are all I have been using. I just showed you that 90% win ratio. This is all I've been using, these two indicators. Now, there's variations of these indicators, so it's not like you just look at two things. Anyway, you need nothing else. Zero. Zip. At least this is how I personally make these selections. Now, what are these things? Let's go over briefly what I mean by trend and so on and so on. Okay. Trend. Trend is the direction the stock is going, in recent time. This stock here, see how that's trending downwards? That's bad. You don't want that stock. So, I don't know how to make it any simpler than that. You don't need to put up indicators and lines. You just look at it. You just look at it. Is it going down or is it going up? Now, this one's obviously going down right now. You don't want that on the smoking gun list because it's a bad trend. This is a good trend. See that? I just showed you bad. This one's good. See how it's going up? It's a good trend. You only just want to look at the last few bars because you have another thing called a trend reversal, which is in this same category. This here is a trend reversal. This is also very, very good. I love these. See how it's going down and then suddenly it reverses and now it's going up. You want to look for that. That's a really good indicator for one of these smoking gun trades. Really good. Support and resistance. This is probably the most important thing that I look at when confirming a smoking gun trade. Let me briefly go over what we mean by support and resistance. Now, some of you are going to, get nitpicky and say, well, what indicator do I turn on? What settings do I put? Oh, no, forget that. Just look at the chart. You can see it. It's as plain as day. We can see right here, for example, recently, that resistance is right here. How do you know that? Because it didn't go above that line. It got there and failed. And guess what? It's there right now again. And see how it's having a hard time getting past that? That means it's resistance. What about support? Well, here's support. How do we know that? Because it keeps bouncing at that same level. Now, prior to that, support was down here. See, because it kept bouncing around that level. Way prior to that, resistance was here. Now, remember, support and resistance change over time. And that is actually significant. We'll get into that in a sec. But right there was resistance. Was. Now, this is what I mean by it changes. You see, at that point in that time, it busted through resistance, and that means that's a good thing. That's what you want to look for from a bullish perspective. It's breaking through resistance. Because once it breaks through a resistance line, that means there's some next resistance level way up there somewhere. That means it has room to run. A lot of people hear me say, well, it has room to run. What I mean is it got through an old resistance level, and now it's got to go way up there to get to another one. This is really simple stuff, you guys. You just have to look at the chart and make sense of it. Don't let the facts scare you too much. All right, winners. I'm going to demonstrate actual trades that were made in Gars Gold that did really well and how they were detected and how they were confirmed. Every one of these I'm going to show you were on the smoking guns list at the time that they were selected. Okay, January 21, CMCM was on the smoking gun list, big volume on calls. Notice I've put a line there. See, there's a resistance line that I drew. How do I know that's resistance? Because it failed to get through that line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. All of a sudden, you see where that's circled, the stock busts through that resistance line. That was a green light for me. It was on the smoking gun list, so it's a trade. Also had room to run. How do I know? Because the next resistance line was way up there at that peak, so it had a lot of room to go. This was a classic textbook selection. The final confirmation is I looked at a 15-minute chart and I noticed that it's ramping up. You see that? That was the start of the session where that circle is and the stock is ramping up on the 15-minute chart for that day. That is a huge green light, because that means it's got a lot of trading interest. Also, look at that volume. The result, what did the stock do? Well, it merely went up 12.3% within less than a week. And that was the buy point there I'm showing the arrow. I mean, this was a textbook case. Never would have chosen if it weren't on smoking gun. Okay, next one, ADVS. There it is, your resistance line. Okay, there it is, busted through resistance. It was on smoking gun list. Boom, it's an obvious choice. Result, there's your buy point. And not only did that thing spike up, it spiked up again after that. This was a 13%er if you held it that whole time. I don't think I did. I think I turned into a weenie and got like 3 or 4% out of it. But, you know, that's me. Okay, PLNR. This is a different kind of choice. It's not that busting through resistance choice. This is a little different. This is a trend reversal. Notice that green bar. See, this was on smoking gun list, and I looked at the daily chart. I said, hey, that green bar is very interesting because it recently had a real downslide. This told me it's probably a trend reversal. So I went and looked at the 15-minute chart, and sure enough, it's a really nice trend reversal. Because see how this thing is falling, right? All of a sudden, with some decent volume, this thing is just ramping up every 15-minute bar. That is a green light for a trend reversal. And sure enough, our results there's the buy point, and this is for one day, 9%. I mean, come on, this is not a fluke. One more for now, FTR. This was kind of a tough one because it looks overextended. I guess it kind of sort of was, but see that line I just put there? That is the resistance level. I only know that because it failed to bust through for 2 bars in a row, but then it breaks through. So that's another breaking through resistance. That was a hot item on smoking gun. The result? Buy point, Spikorama, 11% in one day. I think that stock is still kind of doing okay to this day. This was on, what the date here? I think this was just not that long ago. I think it was just a few days ago. All right? Okay, I'm going to give you some live demo. I'm going to show you how I go about picking these. I'm going to take a day. I have 2/11/15. I'm actually going to do 2/10/15 because I was going over it prior to the show, and I think 2/10 is a little bit better. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go to Traders Unite. To demo this, what I'm doing here is I'm going to give you a step-by-step procedure. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show you one of the most important new features on the new window. It's what I call the tracking chart. The tracking chart will bring you a little mini chart, and it's called tracking chart because you, oh, come on, Come on. There we go. Because you can walk through the list and watch the charts. See, I'm clicking on the top one. As I use the arrow key, I scroll down and I can look at the charts one by one. See, pretty cool, huh? I use that every day to go through these really quick until one of them catches my eye. I showed you that because I'm going to use the tracking chart when I do this demo. And I'm going to show you I'm going to think out loud what goes through my mind when I'm making these choices from the smoking gun list. To do that, I'm going to use Market Replay. This is only for demo purpose. If any of you don't have Market Replay, you ought to get it, because the thing is killer. It takes you back any day of the market in the past and relives it so you can practice. I'm going to choose February 10th, I think I said. Now, what I just did here is using Market Replay, I've now taken us back in time to the opening bell on February 10th, which was last Tuesday. Just a couple days ago. Okay, it's ready to go. That means all the charts, everything is February 12th. Now, the one thing that does not obey Market Replay is the smoking gun list. That's it, because we probably just haven't gotten around to making it. But because it doesn't obey, we'll have to force it to the 10th. Okay, so I just now selected the 10th for a smoking gun. All right, go back to Market Replay. Let's open the market. Opening bell is now sounded. It's now 9:30 a.m. and I'm going to fast forward to about 10 a.m.-ish. Usually when I start looking at stocks, I don't look at anything before then. It's too volatile. It's too crazy. Okay, it's 10:03 a.m. Okay, so let's stop. Now, we can only look at stock because this is not filtering Market Replay. We can only look at the ones that are at 10 a.m. or before. Actually, let's go a little bit further so we can get more picks. Let's go. I'm making it go a little bit faster forward so we can get more picks. Yeah, let's go to... That's probably good enough. Yeah, 10:50, 10:51, that's perfect. All right. Now we can only look at the ones that are before 10:51. Let's sort by the time hit so we can do it that way. See, what I'm doing is I'm going back in time to show you what I would be thinking if I'm paging through these guys. Okay, let's look at some of these. All right. Okay, regardless of that chart, what I don't like about this one is it's got... Oh, I'm looking at puts. Sorry. I don't want to look at puts. Let's look at calls. Okay. There we go. All right, let's see what the chart looks like. I don't like that one because, well, it's uptrending, so it's a possibility, I guess. But I don't like it. I try to avoid those cheapy stocks whenever I can. That's only a $4 something stock. That one is busted through resistance, but I really don't like that red bar. That means that's also a super cheapy. It's only 95 cents. Maybe you guys like it. That one's downtrending. I don't see any compelling reason. There's no confirmation on that one. That one's also downtrending, no confirmation, so I wouldn't consider it. Now that one looks really interesting. Even though there's a huge green bar, that thing is flying, and it's busted right up ahead of resistance. So let's mark that as a watcher. Okay? That one looks interesting. It looks like, oh no, forget that one. That one spiked up into outer space and is going sideways. There must have been an acquisition or something. That one's downtrending, kind of don't like it. Now that one's interesting. Except it's got a lot of put volume, so that might be a straddle. It's got 1,100% increase in calls and a 434% increase in puts. So that's still okay, I guess. Let's mark that one as a watcher. I like the way that's busted through its resistance level. All right. That one looks terrible, downtrendy. This is a possibility because we have a nice little reversal of trend. So let's add that one. That one is right at resistance. You see that? There's resistance. And it's right there, so that's not a good bet for now. That one's a little downtrendy. That one I don't know what to do with. It's a sort of uptrendy. It's kind of ahead of resistance. That's a possibility, but there's better ones to consider. Oh, it's also super low volume. It had 27 option contracts traded, and that's a 1,400% increase. That's terrible. Forget that one. Oh man, that one's tough because see, it plummeted, and now it's trying to reverse itself. I don't know. If you're a real day trader, that might be a good one, but I'm going to skip it. WCN. Ooh, I like WCN. See, because there's your resistance line for a long period of time, and it busted through that. It's actually pulled back quite a bit in the morning too, so that could be a good entry. Let's add it. I'm going to do a few more. Then we're going to see how we did. MWW. Ah, this is a nice one. Even though it's technically a cheapie, this one looks good to me because. Here, let's expand the chart. Yeah, here's your resistance line right here. See where my pointer is? And that thing is just busted right through. Look how it spiked way up into outer space at the open, and now it's pulled way back. But it's still above resistance, which means it's pulled back. Good entry, so let's definitely add that to the watch list. I would probably have traded that one. That looks really good. All right, that's enough. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Using Market Replay, I'm going to go ahead one day and see how we did. Actually, since this was the 10th, I'm just going to go ahead and look at the current market and see how these did. All right? Hope you guys are following me on this marker. This Market Replay has nothing to do with smoking gunpowder. I'm just using it to demonstrate a past session and how I would have proceeded. And what my thought process would have been. All right, so like I said, if you don't have Market Replay, you should. I just now reverted to the live market. You know, I swear to God, I'm laughing as I'm looking at something I'm going to show you. I am not cheating. I swear I am not cheating. I did not pre-screen these picks. I'm literally picking them for the first time as if I've never saw them that day, and I didn't. I don't think I'd made any trades on the 10th. That's why I chose the 10th, actually. But check it out. Check it out. Okay. RY, which we added, is flat. It hasn't gained anything since we added it. Okay. And this is a couple days ahead. MWW, that one I really like, 20.69%. ahead since I added it. Come on! I'm sorry, I don't want to get too excited. WCN, since we added it, 1.1% ahead. ALLY, 8.92% ahead. I remember mentioning ALLY on Gars Gold, and for some stupid reason I didn't trade it, now that I think about it. But it's 8%er. CYBR, 18% since we just added it. This is only 2 days. CCK, 0.02%, so that's flat. Look at this. Okay, I just got to look at this chart. Look at that. Here's where we traded it, quote unquote, traded it in the past Market Replay, and look where it is. You think that's a coincidence? No, I don't think so. This smoking gun thing is unbelievable. if you know how to use it. Just go through the chart, look at the chart, and just use your common sense. Does the crowd like the stock? Is it trending up? Has it broken through resistance? Does it look good? Then go for it. You don't need spider web charts and all kinds of scientific apparatus. Why don't you need that? Because people are behind the stocks and people are telling you who they like by virtue of smoking gun options. Now, if you don't have this thing already, you got to subscribe to it. There's no such thing as grandfather with Wall Street Smoking Gun. It's subscription only. The reason we can't give away grandfather deals is because it's very expensive to run this data feed. And even if we charge $1,000 for the grandfather, we would eventually go in the hole on that because of the cost, right? You can still use the promo code, as we had in the last webinar, SG, when you want to buy this thing. If you use SG, you'll get an extra month if you do 3 months. You'll get 2 extra months if you do 6 months. I made a note here, Wall Street Smoking Gun is super powerful and valuable. Price will likely rise in the next few months, so get locked in. By locked in, I mean if whoever subscribes now, that's never going to go up for them as long as they keep up with it. And the best way, how do you buy the thing? The best way is right from Traders Unite. If you don't own it, if you try to open this window, this guy here, it won't give you that window. It'll tell you, sorry, bub, you need to buy. And then you just click Buy Now. And by the way, it comes with the High Premium Report. A High Premium Report is a whole different animal, and it's a whole different technology. I'm going to have a separate webinar for that, because that's a whole different universe. But High Premium Report is, in a certain way, more valuable than Smoking Gun. Because High Premium Report is going to let you eke out double-digit gains on your IRA or large account. Seriously, it will. We'll get into that later. But this comes with the Smoking Gun Report. All right, now I'm going to answer any questions, if they exist. I'm looking at the questions now. Okay, I got comments so far. I'm trying to find questions. Okay, somebody made a comment who says, Gar, look what SYBR did after hours today. What did it do? We don't show after hours charts in Traders Unite. I'll have to look at it later. It probably spiked, right? Okay, somebody's asking something, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. Let's see, I'm trying to read the question. I don't understand the question. Something about change between yesterday and today. Not today, yesterday, since we don't know of the day until end of day. I don't know what you're trying to ask here. Sorry. You picked MWW, but the percent put was higher than the percent change. Would you have picked it had you noticed that? Yeah, I would have still. Because, yeah, like sometimes I'll back away when there's huge puts as well as calls, but MWW looks so good to me on the chart, I just had to. I mean, seriously, that's what the chart to me is senior over anything else. But here's where I use the put versus call thing. If they're all equal, if they all are kind of borderline trades, I look at that put percentage to see if it's just a straddle. Somebody says explain high premium. Oh, okay. High premium, and I don't want to get into the details, there's going to be a separate webinar for that, but high premium is a list of the highest premiums on all the options that are out there. So in other words, when you buy an option, you pay a premium, which is above and beyond the actual value of that option. And that premium is the money that the shareholder gets when you buy that option. The reason why that's important for high premium is because if you are the shareholder and want to sell options, that list is super valuable because you could then own stock and sell options and make like 8, 9, 10% on that option sale doing nothing, and your stock does absolutely nothing and you've made 10%, let's say. And so the high premium report gives you the highest premiums relative to where the stock price is. And it is ideal for writing covered calls and also for doing option spreads. You know, Bush is on our forum is really into option spreads. They can be kind of complicated at first, but once you understand what's going on, they're actually a really solid, very, very safe way to make money off of options without having to rely on the option itself to make money. You actually rely on the option's expiration to make money. And that's why the option premiums are really important to know how high they are relative to the stock. Okay, let's see what else. Somebody actually made a comment earlier on here. I didn't even read it. It said, do you have your own personal account to back up these claims? And I'm thinking, what? Yeah, it's called Gar's Gold. Go visit it. It's live. And number two, you know, try it. Try it yourself. I'm telling you, this thing selects winners. You know, don't take my word for it. Anyway, you know, I guess you drag somebody gold and they say it's too heavy. It's too heavy to pick up. Sorry. Anyway, that's just my own pet peeve. Does my VIP pass cover Smoking Gun? No, it does not, because Smoking Gun is a whole new thing, and it's too expensive to maintain. There's no VIP, or that's what we call it now. We used to call it grandfather. There is no grandfather for Smoking Gun. Somebody says, what's the volume column in the report? Oh, the volume is the actual volume the volume is the actual volume that occurred for that option, and that gives you a good feel for what its normal is. Okay, so if the option volume, if it says 1,000, okay, but it says it's a 500% increase, that means that its normal volume is 1,000 divided by 500. So you see what I'm saying? If the volume was 10,000 and it says that the increase was only 200%, that means that option trades a lot. So the volume, in other words, the volume is the volume that the actual option just traded. Somebody says, could we look at some for tomorrow? Yeah, we could. I'll do that in a sec. Will this be replayed? It's being recorded. Yes, you'll be able to watch it again. Somebody said, I saw somebody receive a report of unusual options volume. Are these sent out daily? And are they sent before market open? Yeah. The Smoking Gun report can be sent to your email. It's sent in real time. And you have a choice. You can have it sent every hour on the hour. You can have it sent every 15 minutes, which is the max. It only updates itself every 15 minutes. And but when it does, it's current. In other words, it's not delayed. It just takes 15 minutes for it to update again. And then you can have it sent only twice a day, which is at noon and end of day. And yeah, you can get it at the end of day after the market closes, but then you can get it real time during the market live email. No, well, you can get it before markets open in the sense that you just got it for the previous day after the market closed. You can set that in the settings. Here, look, I'll show you. If you go into Traders Unite, and by the way, you can also access this on a web page now. When you buy it, it'll give you that link. But it's way better to do it in Traders Unite because you have charts. Anyway, you open up Smoking Gun and click email. You see that, and it gives you options of what email to send it to and how often. You can also have it only send you the top 20, top 30, or whatever, instead of the whole list. It's up to you. You can also test it and make sure you have the right email. You can have it send it to you immediately, right now, by clicking the test button. All right? Does tracking chart permit other displays than candles? Yeah, it's a regular chart. In case you didn't notice, here I'll show you. Tracking chart. It's a regular chart. It's a regular Traders United / PowerScan type chart. You see, everything's there. I have the theme set to light color. I just decided I like it better that way for now. But yeah, you got candlestick, lines. You know, in other words, you can do whatever you do with the chart right now. It's just another chart. Somebody's saying on the time column it sorts by a numerical sequence but doesn't take into account a time. Yeah, I know. It's sorting right now on the time column like alphabetically. I have to make it sort by the actual time. Yeah, somebody's asking if you can sort by time. Yeah, you can sort by time. Here's a list. You just click the time hit. Now it's sorted by time. Remember, any one of these columns you can sort by just clicking on it. You click it once, it sorts ascendingly. You click it another time, it sorts descendingly. Same thing with time hit. Now, the only problem with time hit is it sorts sort of alphabetically. You'll notice that well, the bug is it doesn't account for AM and PM. So it sorts weird in that sense, but you can still sort. So like if you're at 10 a.m., you can sort, it'll show you 9:45, 9:45, 9:40, like that. Yeah, I use time sort a lot. Does the high premium provide the quantity of contracts available at that premium? No. There's no way to even know that. Well, I guess there is. If you look at like a level 2 type of thing, it'll tell you how many contracts are in the bid and then how many are in the ask. You could probably just look that stuff up wherever you're trading. Does it go into the leap territory? No. It only goes about 4 months out, 4 or 5 months out. No, it won't tell you how many contracts you can sell. Well, if you're an option seller like covered calls, you can sell as many as you want. The question is, are you going to find a buyer? And there's no possible way to know that. However, if you're sticking with higher volume stocks, the chances is yes, you'll find a buyer. There's some really good high options, some really good high premium stocks that also have a lot of options volume, and one of them that I know of is one of my favorites. Let's take a quick look. I've been tracking it, and I'm actually going to start showing results. It's one called, it's not on the list tonight for some reason. It's one called JNUG, J-N-U-G. Yeah, here it is. It's here. It often has whopping premiums, and it's a miners, a gold miners type ETF, and it's like a triple 3X something. It always has monster premiums. Like I'm looking at it here, the JNUG, J-N-U-G, the $29.50 strike, February 20th, which is the end of next week. Expires end of next week. The stock is trading at $29.76, right? On the bid, you could get $2.30. That's outrageous. That's almost 10% of the stock. Now, the bad news is JNUG is very volatile, and so you got to be careful. Now, this is where I'm going to study this. I'm going to figure out the right methodology to sell covered calls, because it's a double-edged sword. You can sell a call on a stock getting a monster premium, then the stock plummets and it wipes out your gains. So there's got to be a happy medium, and I'll figure that out. But I've been concentrating on the smoke and gun side of things, and that's going to wind down soon. I'll get on the high premium, help everybody out. Yeah, somebody made a good comment. So whoever asked about backing up plans, tell them to look at the forum. Yeah, that's what I said in the Gars Gold forum. What I showed you there were actual live demonstrated trades. There's no better way to back it than that. Somebody's saying, I noticed using the report today, a lot of the high volume related to earnings about to be released. Do you factor those pre-announcement buys into your eventual choices, or do you disregard them? Oh no, I definitely factor that. In fact, I kind of wanted to add the earnings date to the columns in the report, because that's real important. One thing that'll keep you from that mistake, if it's just earnings, is usually, not always, but usually the put volume is very heavy also. And so, yeah, you should probably check for earnings, because you don't want to hold a stock through earnings anyway. As a rule, you don't want to hold a stock into earnings, as you could get decapitated. I mean, you could also win big, but it's usually a bad deal. Do I personally trade the option or the stock? Lately, it's been the stock, because the ones I've been picking are very bad option plays. And that's the other thing too, is option trades are tricky because they need to have good liquidity, and they need to have good spreads. And a lot of the stocks I've been picking from Smoke and Gun have not been good option plays. The spreads are terrible. But that's another thing we are going to fix soon. We're going to revamp the whole options list, so you have a lot more choices, and we're going to list a lot more that have reasonable spreads, and so you can better chance for some option plays. One workaround of the bad spread is to just put in a bid that you want, and sometimes you can get it. But that's a whole different subject we can discuss some other time. Could you set a template on the chart? I'm not sure what that means. I mean, can you change the theme and all that and set like fixed indicators? Yeah, just like you can for the charts now. Right now on the charts on any part of Traders Unite, you can set, like here, I'll show you. If you open up a chart and you decide you want indicators, so you pick like a bunch of stuff, you know, spider webs. Just see this button right here, Save Current Setup. If you click that, that becomes the Save Default Setup for every chart you open. That'll be true on the tracking chart as well as all the other charts. So yeah, you could have your spider web's heart's desire, and it'll open up that way every time if you click that Save Current Setup button. What would you make of something like Glog, G-L-O-G? I don't know. What do I make of it? I don't know. I don't know in what sense. Like, does it look good, bad, indifferent? Or let's find it. I don't know. I see no compelling reason to like it one way or the other. It's just kind of, you know, hovering around in a range right now. No big volume or anything. So I'm not sure what we're looking for there. When will the replay be posted? Probably before tomorrow morning, I hope. The reason it takes so long is we have to convert it because this webinar service doesn't use a standard method of recording, so it has to be converted, and it takes like hours and hours. What do you think about XLI, huge amount of options? Is it on the report? XLI? Let's sort by symbol and see. XLI. I don't see XLI on the Smoking Gun report. So if it has huge options, it does not have unusually huge options. Otherwise, it'd be on the report. Oh, puts. Yeah, it has. Yeah, okay, it has huge puts. I wonder why. I wonder why. Somebody really doesn't like it to have huge puts. Now, there's no accumulation on those puts. I noticed that. So there's only been one day, but I don't know. It looks strong to me. I don't know why. Maybe somebody knows something we don't. I guess maybe that's the whole point, huh? I'd keep my eye on it if nothing else, but I wouldn't short it or do puts right now because it looks too strong. Remember, the trick with Smoking Gun is confirm. Confirmation is the key. Don't just blindly pick one up. Somebody said, can we look at tonight's stuff? We'll look at a few right now. I'll do that real quickly. This is we'll look at calls. We'll go sort by volume. We'll start at the heaviest volume. Let's turn on a tracking chart. Oh, I think we have a tracking chart here. Yeah, there's our tracking chart. Okay, the very top one doesn't look too bad because it's busting through resistance very heavily. That might really fly tomorrow. So VNTV looks pretty good for tomorrow. However, it's got some pretty heavy put options. But look, the call volume increase is 70,000%. Put volume increase is 41,000%. There's a lot more calls than puts, so that might not be too bad. Is there any accumulation? Yeah, 3 days. 3 days of accumulation. Now maybe they're doing earnings or something. I don't know. But the chart looks good because it's busting out of a range. OWW. Didn't we do that one already? I don't like OWW because it's not out of this resistance area quite yet. It needs to break above that. It needs to break above about $10. This one doesn't look too bad. CGNX. But the only problem I'd have with it is when we're looking at tonight's end of day data, this one looks like it's already produced. This would have been this was spotted at 10 a.m. You see that? This was spotted at 10 a.m. Yeah, there's some put options, but they're only about a third of the call options, so that's probably okay. Open interest increased. So that's a pretty good pick, but this would have been a good one today because it was flagged at 10:40 a.m., right? Let's look at the intraday. Yeah, look at that. That would have been a nice trade for today because where would be yeah, check it out. Your buy point is like right here. You see where my crosshairs are? Let me change those crosshair. You can't even see those crosshairs. There we go. Okay, there we go. Look at your buy point is right here for that stock because it came out at 10. Let's say you buy it at 11 something or another because it's confirmed. Look at that. That's I don't know what percent that is, but I can't even do the math, but it's huge. So that was a good one, but that might have already produced, so for tomorrow it's not that great yet, unless it keeps going. Let's do a couple more. I don't want to waste everybody's time. Make the chart a little smaller. Okay, that one, I don't like that one. It's kind of sort of uptrendy. However, the open interest has changed dramatically. Well, somebody really likes this one, but notice that it's March contract. So maybe it's not quite time for that one. I don't like that one. It just seems a little overextended and it can't get past its recent resistance. That looks like that would have been a good one for today, maybe. Well, maybe not. It wasn't reported until 2:42 p.m. It needs to get through this resistance area, so I don't like it for tomorrow. That one looks excellent because see how it's busting through resistance? There's your resistance line right here. How that's busted right through, and this can get all the way up to $10 before it starts hitting new resistance. So I love that one. So watch that one for tomorrow. That one is none of that. There's no put options at all on it, and there's open interest increase. That's MOBL. watch that one for tomorrow. All right. That one's not bad because, again, it's just barely above its resistance level. That's probably a good sign. If that thing shows life tomorrow, that would be a good one. It does have some put options, but it's it's half of the call options. Anyhow, I don't know if I like anything else. Or actually, I don't know if I should do anymore. Anyway, the two I like the most are, I like MOBL, and I like the very top one. I think there's a couple others I kind of liked. Yeah, CGNX. Oh, no, that's one that would have been great today, huh? Yeah, those are the two I like the best. We'll see how they do. Oh, OWW has an acquisition. You know, yeah, but that's interesting because that showed up in Smoking Gun before the acquisition. That's the point. That's what's so cool. You're right. Isn't that Orbitz? I think that's. Yeah, I was mentioning that this morning. Now that I think about it, I was mentioning in the Guards Gold. I said Orbitz was acquired by Expedia, and I said oddly it's been on the Smoking Gun list for 2 or 3 days in a row. Orbitz has. See, that's mind-boggling. All right. If you don't, there's no more very important questions, I better end this show. It was a little bit ab lib because, well, just because this stuff is new. This is only the 3rd time I've covered this subject, and but it's been blowing my mind every day, and I hope it's been doing the same for you. And on that note, I thank everybody for attending. We'll have more of these shows, don't worry, and I'll post the recording so you can review the methods to my madness in examining the charts. All right. Thank you for attending.